Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips.
Hello everybody and welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. My name is Dr. Lesley Phillips and I am your host. And the theme of the show is anything and everything to do with spirituality and metaphysics. This is a talk show, so we love you to call in. And of course, if you'd like to phone up, if you'd like to talk to me but you're a bit shy, you can also email at info@drlesleyphillips.com, and that is spelled DRLESLEYPHILLIPS drlesleyphillips.com. So if this is the first time that you've tuned into the show, every week we choose a different spiritual topic to talk about. And then we have people phoning in and asking me, because I'm a professional intuitive, you can phone up and you can ask your questions to me. And your questions don't have to be limited by the topic of discussion. So you could, if you have a burning question about something going on in your life, whether it's in a relationship, career, money issues, health problems, what's your life purpose, your own spiritual abilities, or any strange, spooky experiences that you've had, then call me up and tell me about it and ask me about it, and I'll take a look for you at what's going on. And you can also phone up and talk to me about spiritual matters as well. So whatever the theme is, you can phone up and give us your opinion and your information on the subject matter too. So today I thought that what we would do is talk about clairvoyance. Now, I think a lot of you out there, you might not understand completely what clairvoyance is. There's a whole bunch of terms that we use to describe someone who has psychic abilities. We use the word psychic, we use the word intuitive, sometimes we use the word clairvoyance, and they're often, and medium as well, they're often used interchangeably without a real clear understanding that actually they are different. So just as you have 5 physical senses, so you can see, you can hear, you can taste, you can touch, and you can smell, the spiritual abilities, the intuitive abilities, are also different like that. And whereas you have 5 physical senses, there are many, many more intuitive senses. In fact, at my last count, there's at least 25 of them, and they're all different. And so clairvoyance is one of my favorites. It's one of the ones that I have a really strong strength in, and it's a fairly common one as well. And so most people, I believe, can be trained to use their clairvoyance. So I thought I would educate you a little bit about what clairvoyance is, and even teach you a technique to help you start to activate your clairvoyance. So obviously, clairvoyance, it is a French word, and the direct translation is clear seeing. So it's your ability to see clearly. It's your ability to see the truth. Your ability to tell the truth from a lie. It's your ability, actually, clairvoyance allows you to see your truth from a very neutral and non-judgmental perspective. I find most people are operating their lives from more of an emotional perspective or more of an intellectual perspective than an intuitive one. And the emotions and the intellect are vibrations that belong to the physical body. And if you operate from them, you get pulled into them. Whereas the intuitive abilities actually have higher vibration and more instant access to information. So, for example, the intellect will slow you down because you have to think in a linear matter. So first A, then B, then C. Whereas if you're tuning into your intuitive abilities, it's instant information. So there's no figuring it out, there's no analyzing it, there's just receiving the information and accepting it. So clairvoyance, so how can you use your clairvoyance? Why would you want to do this, and how could it be useful to you in your life? Because, of course, these abilities are not just for the people that we think of as being, psychics. They're for everyone. We all have them, just like we have our physical senses. And I told you one of the big advantages of having your clairvoyance is you can see what's true. So somebody in your life can be presenting you with a set of facts or some information. And if your clairvoyance is active and switched on, you've got a really good BS meter, and you can tell if the person is telling you the truth or not. It can help you in your life to make a decision because you can see clearly what is the right course of action for you to take. And so it saves you time and figuring out and all the pros and cons. You can very instantly get a read on what's the right choice for you to make. And you can also view your life from, like I said, from a neutral perspective. I think of my clairvoyance, it's like I'm sitting in the driver's seat of my car when I'm using my clairvoyance. It's like I have my own private air traffic control tower of my life, where I can see the whole landscape of my life from a very neutral and accepting standpoint, and I can decide, well, this isn't working, so I need to let go of that. And this is working, so I'll keep that. So it really helps you focus in on your life direction and make choices about what's working for you and what isn't working for you. So any of you who are perhaps not driving right now, who would like to join me in a very brief meditation, I am going to teach you a way to start to activate your own clairvoyance. And I'm actually going to teach you two techniques. The one that helps you activate your clairvoyance is called centering, but we need to do a different technique first called grounding. So grounding helps you, the high vibration spiritual consciousness, come into your body. And if you want to start consciously being in charge of your life, and if you want to start consciously activating and using your intuitive abilities, you need to be in your body and you need to be grounded. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. And the second thing we're going to do is place the consciousness in the center of the head. And this is where your clairvoyance is located. So by focusing your energy there, you start to stimulate it and you start to activate it. So I'm going to talk you through that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it after we've done the meditation. So I will invite you all to sit in a straight back chair with your feet flat on the floor, your hands resting in your lap, and close your eyes. And take a nice deep breath in and out. And in and out. And then tune in to an area near the base of your spine and start to create a flow of energy that goes from there all the way to the center of the earth. And let it flow through your chair, through the floor, through the foundations of the building that you're in, and through the layers of the planet till it reaches the center of the earth. And just notice what this feels like. It's kind of like an anchor holding you into physical reality, pulling your consciousness into your body. So just notice what that feels like for you to ground through your body. And then I'll invite you to just focus your conscious awareness a few inches above the top of your head. And then start to gently come towards your body and enter your body through the very top of your head. And just come in so that you are in the center of your head. And sit there for a moment. If you know biology, this is your pineal gland. It's the very center of your head. And it is the center of an energy center which contains your spiritual information about seeing clearly. If you seat your consciousness here in the center of your head, you can do all that stuff that I was talking about, which is be very neutral. Be above your emotions, be apart from your intellect. Let go of any judgment that you have of yourself or that you have of other people. It places you in self-acceptance and acceptance of everything. So sit and be grounded and be in the center of your head, and I'll just explain a few more things about this centering and stimulating your pineal gland, which starts to activate your clairvoyance. So just let yourself have whatever experience you are having. So some of you might start to see colours, clouds of colours floating by. And if that's you, let that be okay. Because what's starting to happen is that you're starting to tune into energy. The physical eyes have a certain range of electromagnetic frequencies that they are able to tune into. The spiritual abilities can tune into a much wider range of frequencies. So when you start to do this exercise, then you start to open yourself to more subtle frequencies, and they can be experienced in the form of color and light. Another experience that's quite common is you might see yourself as a bright spark of light sitting there in the center of your head. That's you seeing yourself the being of pure consciousness and light, which is who you really are. So be grounded and be in the center of your head. Now, some of you may even start to see images floating by. You might see symbols. You might see pictures that look like photographs, or even little video scenarios playing. These are all experiences of clairvoyance. All right, so pat yourself on the knee and open your eyes, and you can do that exercise again in your own time. But all of those things that I talked about, for me, when I'm doing a reading, that's what's happening. I'm sitting in the center of my head, and I am using my clairvoyance to see energy. So I can read somebody's electromagnetic field, which is sometimes called their aura. To me, it looks like colored lights. It looks like structured groupings of electromagnetic energy that can appear as a symbol, that can appear as a memory, like a photograph or a video playing. This is how I read people. This is how I get information to read people through the clairvoyance and through seeing these different vibrations and frequencies and configurations of energy. And like I said, it's not special to just a few people. Every single one of us can learn how to use our clairvoyance, and those two things that I just taught you are all you need to know to do it, to start activating and to start being able to tune in to these subtle forms of energy. And of course, then some of the other kinds of energy that you might start to see as your spirit guides, angels, even ghosts. So your clairvoyance can help you tune in to any and all of those things. Now we are going to go to a break, but I would love you to phone me and talk to me about clairvoyance, talk to me about any experience that you have had seeing things that were not really there. And we can chat and take a look at what's been going on. Or if you don't have an experience of your own clairvoyance, but you've got technical questions about how to do it or want more information, you can call as well. Or you can call with any kind of question at all. So, it's open mic for anyone to phone us up and talk about anything in the realm of metaphysics, spirituality, or your own life, and outstanding questions that you would like to have an intuitive give you some information about. Hello everyone, welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. I'm Dr. Lesley Phillips, I'm your host. We've been talking on the show today about clairvoyance, but don't let that restrict you. You can phone us up about anything you like on the subject of metaphysics and spirituality. You can phone me up with your own questions, and I will do my very best to give you an intuitive answer. Hello.
Hello, I've got an email question from Manny.
Great.
Okay, Manny asks, I had what I thought might be a remote viewing type vision about somebody with the initial A, and I would really like to know what that was. My imagination, real, outside influence? What? It was disturbing and it bothers me.
Fabulous question, and right on the money in terms of clairvoyance. Yes, I should explain, there are lots of different words that are used to describe the intuitive abilities. And I'd love to speak to you I could speak to you for hours about this. But remote viewing is clairvoyance, but it's clairvoyance used and directed in a particular way. So remote viewing is when you use your clairvoyance to see something in real time, actually, or in the past or the future, but usually in real time that is happening. So it would be like having a virtual telescope that allowed me to look down this telescope and I could look at something that was happening in England right now. That's what remote viewing is. And it's often used by people to... Well, for example, if you had a missing child, a psychic might use remote viewing to help them locate the whereabouts of the child. That would be a really good application for remote viewing. Anyway, so let's take a look at Manny's question, which is that he thinks he had a remote viewing experience and he wants to know, was it a real thing? So I'm going to go into a very light trance, and I'll just explain. If this is the first time you've listened, this is what I do. I read from trance. So I'm not using, tarot cards or anything like that. I'm just doing this using my own intuitive abilities. And I just alter my energy state, basically. And I tune into the person I'm reading, which in this case is Manny. I tune into their energy frequency, I set my energy accordingly, and then I'm able to see their reality. So I'm tuning into Manny and his remote viewing type experience that he had. And, I am seeing that you did have a genuine intuitive experience. It wasn't your imagination. It was real. And you don't say exactly what happened, but you do say it was disturbing and it bothered you. So let me just take a look at why was it so shocking for you. So it looks, two things. It looks like the content of what you were seeing was shocking in some way. but also the fact that you were seeing it and it wasn't in the same physical location that you were at, and that you weren't seeing it with your eyes, is another reason why it shocked you to have a spontaneous intuitive experience like this. And so there's two things I'll say. You know, if you were across if you were walking along the street and there were a person got run over the other side of the street and you saw it with your physical eyes, you wouldn't feel responsible for that. You would be a bystander, an innocent bystander. You would be an onlooker. You would be an observer. And so the same thing with clairvoyance. If you see something disturbing, it doesn't mean that you're responsible for it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you are creating it. Although in some circumstances you can be co-creating it. But in this case, I'm seeing that you were like the innocent bystander, that you had a spontaneous opening of your clairvoyance and you tuned into this incident, and just like being an innocent bystander or an observer. And if I take a look at you and well, it's kind of interesting. Let's see. Yeah, it just looks like I've said it all already, that it just shocked you that this might happen. And all I can say to you about that is that while what happened to you might not seem normal, in my opinion, it's actually very normal. It's more normal than the normal that we normally adopt as our normality. Because in our natural state, you know, we are all pure consciousness. We have all of these amazing intuitive abilities. And unfortunately, because of the way that our culture and our world is structured, when we come here into physical reality, we shut them all off and we turn them all down. And, you know, more fool us because we limit our experience. And so I'm seeing that, you know, see your clairvoyance as a gift, because it really is a gift. And, you know, the other thing I would say is sometimes, you know, people get afraid because they think that this gift can't be controlled, you know, and especially when you've had this sort of like a first time experience and it's been this spontaneous thing that you didn't ask for and it just happened and it just seems like it forced its way into your reality. It can be shocking. It can be like, well, I don't want that to happen again because it will make me feel out of control. But you can learn to control it. You can learn to switch it on and switch it off at will. You can decide what you look at and when you look at it. And those techniques that I taught at the beginning of today's show are precisely what you need to know in order to start to be in control of it. Okay, because that's what helps you to, if you move into those positions, being grounded and being centered, then it's kind of like moving yourself into the position where you're activating and using your clairvoyance. And I guess another myth about this is that some people think that when you're seeing with your clairvoyance, it's 100% like you're seeing with your eyes. And, you know, on the one hand, it can be like that, but 99% of the time, for most people out there, it's more like you've got two realities laid on top of one another. So you're seeing with your eyes the physical reality, and you're seeing with a set of inner eyes an inner spiritual, energetic reality. And so you have those two realities superimposed one over the other, and it's a case of how you focus yourself, which eyes you look through, whether you look through your physical eyes to see the physical reality, or whether you switch your focus to see the spiritual reality, and you can choose to do that or not do that. So I hope my words have helped you, Manny, understand your experience. It doesn't seem to me that there's anything to be disturbed or frightened about. just think of yourself as an innocent bystander to what you were tuning into. Okay, so we are taking your calls. I'll tell you the phone number again. So the number in the studio is 604-504-7441, extension 4142. And the email address is info@drlesleyphillips.com. And call about anything you like. You know, I had an interesting lady contact me this week. Here we go. I'll just take this call and I'll continue that thought a bit later. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I've got another email. This one's from Veronica.
Okay.
Okay, Veronica asks, I want to be an animal communicator, yet my skills seem to center around feelings and emotions, and I'm extremely sensitive to atmospheres rather than auditory or visual messages. So I question my aptitude. Do you see any future for me in this?
Fantastic question. Thank you. All right, Veronica, we'll take a look about this, about you wanting to be an animal communicator. And before I go into trance and read you, I will just mention a few things. Animals communicate by telepathy. Telepathy is another intuitive sense, and it is non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication. And it's different than clairvoyance. There's actually a couple of types of telepathy, broadband and narrowband, and the broadband helps you communicate with groups of people, and the narrowband helps you communicate one-on-one with people or animals or even plants, actually. Plants have a type of telepathy too. So, and you're saying that your skills seem to center around feelings and emotions. I think we talked about this one last week, actually, or maybe the week before. This is an intuitive ability which is called clairsentience or clear feeling. And it's the ability to intuit information through the emotions and feelings. The primary purpose, by the way, of that ability that you recognize that you have is in body-spirit communication. So it is to help you, the spiritual being, communicate with your physical body, because the physical body lets us know what's going on for it through its emotions. Right? So clairsentience helps you tune into the body's emotions so that you can listen to its needs and work together with it so that it will be an affable and welcoming host for you to be present in it. A lot of people learn to use their clairsentience differently than that, and what they will do is that they will use it to tune into the emotions of people around them. And it's very, very common because when you're a kid, it's like, well, is Daddy angry? Is he gonna come and shout at me? Am I gonna be spanked and put in my room? You know, is Mummy feeling sad? Is she gonna forget to feed me? Whatever it is, you know, we tend to become hypervigilant and use our intuitive abilities to scan the environment and see whether it's a safe place for us. And so you can use your clairsentience to be empathic and to tune in to the emotions of others. And it's important to learn to control it, because again, you can start to feel out of control when you're swimming in a sea of emotions of other people. So the skills that you're noticing within yourself and that you're validating, yes, that's a genuine intuitive ability. And you could use that to help you tune in to animals, because animals have emotions too. That would give you valid and useful information. But you're wanting to up your game, and you're hoping for auditory and visual messages. And like I mentioned to you, I would encourage you to look into telepathic communication, because that's the way that animals communicate. Anyway, let me go into trance, Veronica. Let me just take a look at what's going on with the auditory and the visual senses with you. Yeah, so I will just validate when I tune into you, I can see how your clairsentience is really switched on, really well developed. It looks like you're using it all the time to sense your way through your environment and your relationships. And when I look at the other abilities that you've asked about, the clairvoyance, the main block for you is your intellectual mind. And I pretty much find this with most people I encounter that I'm teaching to activate their intuition. We are so programmed to use our analytical, logical brain. We go to school for years and years and years, and this is the sort of circuitry that is programmed into us. Use your frontal lobes, analyze, think things through, and so it becomes a real block to the intuitive abilities, because we will receive an instant intuition, and immediately, instead of accepting it, we start to pass it through our analyzer, and then we invalidate it and we don't believe it. So for you, activating your clairvoyance, you have this strong sort of intellectual aspect to overcome. That technique of centering, if you listen to the beginning of the show, sets you back from your intellect. It places you aside from your intellect and helps you to stop allowing it to slow you down, and helps you to stop going into it. So that's the first tip I would give you, is that your intellect is interfering with you using your visual intuitive sense. And when I look at the auditory sense, I'm seeing some pain pictures, and it looks like you had that ability invalidated when you were younger. So it's like, well, that's your imagination, it's not real, you're hearing things, they're not real, and you sort of learned that, when I use these intuitive abilities, I'm different than everybody else, and I'm not acceptable, and I don't want to be different, I want to belong. And so it looks like you turned them down. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about telepathy as well, just because on this subject of animal communication. Your telepathic channels are actually your sinuses. And like I said, it's a two-way communication. You could send messages and then non-verbal messages, because of course animals don't communicate with language like the same language that we do, right? So we want to be able to communicate in a way that we can both understand. And you can receive communications that way from them as well. So if you want to, Veronica, email me at info@drlesleyphillips.com. I actually have a book coming out about all of these intuitive abilities. I have a chapter on all of these ones, and telepathy as well. And so I'd be happy offline from the radio show to share some more information about this with you. But, the one I see the most in animal communicators is telepathy. And incidentally, I also see it in performers, even radio show hosts, DJs, anyone performing or teaching in front of a big crowd or talking to large groups of people, whether they realize it consciously or not, will often be broadcasting the information not just verbally, but on more subtle levels through the telepathic channels as well. And it enables you to tune into multiple frequencies in different people at the same time as well, the broadband. And so whereas language is kind of one-dimensional and limited meaning can be associated with your words, if you're communicating on a telepathic level at the same time, then you can be broadcasting a few different frequencies that will talk to people who are operating at different frequencies. Hello? Hello?
Hello there.
Oh, hello. Who am I talking to?
This is Bobby.
Hello, Bobby. How are you?
Good, thank you. Leslie, how are you?
Very well. Nice to hear from you, Bobby.
It was a pleasure to call in. Thank you.
Great. Do you have a question for me?
Yes, I do. I just, regarding the topic of unlocking your truth, how it relates to living authentically.
How it relates to living authentically. Well, that's a really, really good question. And I guess my answer to that is that all of these intuitive abilities that I talk about all the time, that I'm really passionate about, help you to live authentically. And the way that they help you to live authentically is that they help you to really see the truth about yourself and about your life and everyone in it. So many of us don't live authentically. So many of us are in denial of the truth. And we hide from ourselves and we hide from other people. But if you have developed yourself spiritually, if you have developed your intuitive abilities, that's not possible anymore, because you see the truth and you know the truth about yourself and about others. And so it really helps you to live an authentic life. So what prompted the question?
Well, thank you for that. And I find the synchronicities that occur in my life when I feel I'm living authentically and unlocking my inner truth. I find the synchronicities just continue to line up. I see a lot of times I'll see times on clocks being 222 or 333. I'll find things seem to happen easily. Things just flow. But that's when I feel most authentic, when those things are occurring.
Fabulous. And what you're talking about here is it's alignment. In those moments, you're in total alignment with the higher levels of your being. And you're not in resistance to the natural flow of your life. And so actually that's a really common experience, to see those number sequences. 111, 222, 333, 444. And I find that a lot of people who are on this spiritual journey of awakening, they will have those kinds of experiences happening all the time. And in a way, it's your sort of higher self reflecting back at you. There's more to this world than meets the eye. That, this is, you are a spiritual being, and it's kind of like a wake-up call in a way.
Thank you for that. And I find there are times when, if I'm not living authentically, for instance, if my body needs rest and I feel like I just need to go rest or meditate, if I don't do it, then I feel uncomfortable. Things don't seem to be synchronistic, and so my challenge is to listen to that higher power and that intuitive self.
Perfect, yes. Take the time to meditate and recuperate and heal yourself so that you're managing that alignment with your source, because you're right. If we resist that, that's exactly it. That's when we get out of alignment and life starts to become a struggle.
And it seems, Leslie, in talking to lots of friends and family, for some reason, the start of the year here, it seems that, and I feel this experience too, sometimes feeling overly tired and needing extra rest. And that is that a common theme, do you think, as we're starting in 2015? Well,
I'll mention a couple of things in response to that question, but it's interesting. 2015. If I didn't know this was 2015, I'd kind of think it was 2012. And the reason is that out of all, I have, lots of clients, and in the last 3 months, every single person that I have seen is in a massive growth period, is in a massive transition. It's like their spiritual path is accelerating, and stuff is coming up for people. It's almost like things have got really polarized. So, in the process of sort of this spiritual awakening, of course, it involves us digging deeply and exploring our own shadow side and healing the pain within us as we go. And I've just seen an acceleration of that in the last 3 months. Pretty much without exception, every client that I have. And it's amazing. And it's happening in my own life as well. And so I feel like there is a major shift or acceleration going on right now in this, moment that we're in here in 2015. And so
I feel the same.
Yeah. And then the other thing I'd say, just as a general thing, that in any lifetime, we go through multiple cycles of growth and change, because on planet Earth is a planet of duality. It's a planet of opposites: dark, light, up, down, left, right. And every experience we have, we're kind of balancing between multiple opposites. And so sometimes we go too far in one direction and we need to redress the balance. Maybe we don't eat a healthy diet for a while and then we need to eat more nutritious food. Maybe we need more rest. And especially at a time of massive change and massive transformation going on, for sure, the body might respond by needing more sleep. Because this is the other thing. As spirit, we create instantaneously. There's no time and there's no space. But for those manifestations, those shifts and those changes to make their way through into our physical bodies, it takes the physical body time to catch up with that. And the physical body can react and respond to these growth cycles that are stimulated by changes that we make as spirit in a variety of ways. Needing more sleep, needing to eat different food, needing more exercise, needing to meditate more. You name it, the body can have a response to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Bobby, and thank you so very much for phoning me and chatting to me.
I appreciate it. It's a great program. Have a great night, Lesley.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. Well, that's great. That was Bobby. And fantastic questions from Bobby. Yeah, so growth periods, like I said, that is part and parcel of being here on planet Earth and being in a physical body. That and I'm sure any of you know that, after living a number of years here, if there's one thing you can be sure of, is that things will change. Things are always changing. Things are never the same. We go through multiple cycles of growth and change in any one lifetime, whether it's needing more sleep or anything else. Hello?
Hello, Dr. Lesley. I hope you can squeeze one more quick question in.
Sure.
I know I have... This is from Kitty, and Kitty asked, I know I have a ways to go to get my goal, to get to my goal of being able to help others as a healer or a medical intuitive. Do you see that as a path for me?
So Kitty wants to be a medical intuitive and feels like she has a way to go. Let me take a look. So I'm just going to go into my trance and tune into her energy. And so here's the first thing I want to say to you, Kitty, and a lot of us, we all do this. Somebody once said to me, to be a spiritual teacher, what do you think you need to do? Do you think you need to sit at home perfecting yourself until you're perfect enough to be a spiritual teacher, and then you can go out in the world and be a spiritual teacher? That's not the way to do it. The way that you become a spiritual teacher is to get out in the world and teach. And I would say the same thing to you, that don't be self-judgmental, self-critical and hard on yourself. I see that you are a healer by nature. That is who you are. And you don't need to be perfect at it before you go out and do it, because it's in the experiencing and practicing of it that you evolve and you develop yourself. So that's the first thing that I would say. Now let me take a look at I'm seeing that that's the main thing that's in your way of having this is self-doubt and self-criticism. And it's interesting because I'm seeing ultimately you know that you're a healer. Ultimately you know that you have this information within you on a soul level. So part of it is about getting it into this body and activating it in this body. And part of it is also about just clearing out the invalidation, because I'm seeing that part of what gets in your way is that there's some programming inside you about, and some of it's just the conventional stuff around the healthcare system and conventional medicine and how it's done and how you must be a whack job if you do it any other way, which is complete nonsense, of course, but that's the way our culture, much of our culture is at the moment. So part of you is, afraid of being judged and being seen as an outlier of the mainstream culture. And part of you doubts that you're any good at it, but I'm seeing the part of you that doubts that you're any good at it. That's also really, it's something that you've internalized that came from your childhood and receiving criticism in your childhood about not being good enough or not living up to expectations. And I'm seeing what you did was you internalized it and started having a little program within yourself about not living up to expectations. And so, Kitty, I would encourage you actually, yes, to continue to pursue this path. And it looks as though the best work that you could do for yourself is letting go of your self-doubt and your self-judgment and your self-criticism. And if you listen to the beginning of the show, you can use the centering and the grounding to help you be neutral about seeing that, and the grounding to help you be releasing that from your reality.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips. For more information, go to her website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. Come back again.